Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, and welcome to Theory of Anything, episode 14, hosted by myself, jointly with me,
and yourself,
myself, and I, and my other two sons as well, Ford and Devon.
Nice.
Welcome to you both. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, good
Lovely.
to hear you. And Ford, how are you?
I couldn't be better unless I didn't have achy arms and legs. But
Apart from that.
Apart from that, couldn't be better.
Oh, nice to be back for episode 14. These are whistling by, aren't they? And we're still coming to the end of April at the time of recording. 4 months, 14 episodes. Not bad, eh?
Wow, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
come a long way.
Yeah. Looking back, we've done a total of 51 different segments on our 14 episodes.
Wow,
steady on.
51 subjects have been spoken about. It is, isn't it? Which might be interesting when it comes to my segment.
A bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah, a bit of a little teaser there. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But before we get to that, we don't want to give you that. Not yet.
Not quite.
It's a reference to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The fans would pick that up. We don't want to give you that yet.
The joke, yeah.
The old version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah.
So see how so easily I get distracted. Let's have a little think. Is there anything anybody's got? Messages? Any feedback? Anything we could pick up from the previous episode or episodes before the last one?
Funnily, you should ask.
Oh.
We have a comment on our YouTube channel on episode 13 comment section. It's from Trinity, and she says, "Hi guys, I like this episode. I found all the segments very relatable, which meant I thought of a few points to comment on." She firstly says, "Who is the phone company's target audience when they release good phones for cheap amount of money? And why do you think they bother spending so much money on building and releasing a new phone when they aren't going to charge you much for it?" Well,
you know the answer to that, I'm sure. Go on, what do you think? I have an opinion, but you must know probably the real answer.
Obviously, in marketing, there's this thing called margins. So it's depending on how much you're actually spending to produce a product and get it sold versus how much you're actually selling it for. Yeah. Obviously, for different products, there's different margins. For the higher graded ones, there's a huge margin for them. So they're selling them for very expensive when they do cost a lot to make, but there's a bigger gap between making and selling.
Proportionally, they're not that much more expensive to make compared to a cheaper phone. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you actually go the other way to the budget phones, they are still making money because they're saving some money on some components, but the margin isn't as big, so they're not making a bigger percentage point money out of that thing. So what they want to do is sell lots of that phone. Yeah. Rather than selling a few of the flagship high spec ones, they sell lots of the lower grade ones to kind of add up to the same amount or more, depending on how it goes out. So who is the target audience for them? I say people who just aren't really like tech enthusiasts, people who just want their phone to work, just to do whatever it is, not someone who wants the best camera or the best speed or anything like that. Like a couple of our co-hosts.
Steady on. No, the other point as well. If you had if you were to get a £400 phone on a contract, by the time you've paid off a 3-year contract, was it 2 years? I don't know. You've probably actually paid £500 or £600, maybe £700 worth for that phone.
Yep, and that's how different companies get you. Obviously, it would be that'd be like O2 then selling you the phone rather than Apple sending you the phone. They obviously sell it to O2. So everyone makes their money in different ways. And you got to pay for spreading it out a lot of the times as well. True. But I would mention it's usually best to try and find it on interest-free credit for 2 years and then get a SIM-only contract as well. That usually costs less than getting it on a full contract from a provider.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Maybe I should take that advice. Yeah,
maybe you should. But it's just easier going to I'll go into Vodafone and clicking, "I'll buy this, please."
It is.
You get it.
Yeah.
You have to think about setting up interest-free credit and getting a SIM free.
Half an hour later, you've got a new phone you're walking out with. Yeah,
exactly. It is easier.
Okay, that's a good point.
Anyway,
Thank you. Yeah, move on.
She also that was long. She also asks a question about the fourth segment about lying. She says you talked about lying to yourself. Her question is where the line between lying to yourself, saying "I've got this" when you don't, and speaking faith over yourself in a situation, or faith over the situation.
Perhaps ask Ford to answer that one, shall we?
Oh dear. Well, I believe Devon did briefly mention that in the actual segment, but we didn't really go into it. I would say maybe that lying to yourself in a bad way would be like you have an addiction. And I would say you need to rely on your friends and family, maybe, to point those things out and maybe trust them to tell you that. I don't know. When it comes
before you move on, sorry, would you say lying to yourself but pretending that you don't? So lying to yourself is having an addiction, saying that you don't. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so. That's an example I'm pulling out here.
Yeah, I give up the alcohol or the drugs or the pornography anytime I want.
Exactly.
Yeah. When actually that's not really true. Yeah.
Well, Christians often talk about having a what do they call it? A person to rely on. You tell them things and they accountability partner. That's it.
Yeah.
Where that would be obviously very useful for that sort of thing. But when it comes to speaking over yourself in faith, like I don't know. Any thoughts, you guys?
I think that's about having a positive outlook and saying, yeah, I can do that. That is something I could do. Like, I want to learn to speak Spanish. In everything within me says that's going to be really tough and I'm not sure I'm up to it. But if I approach it with that attitude, I probably won't succeed. But if I say, no, you can do it. You can do this. Why shouldn't you be able to learn a new language when not everybody, but all these other people can speak more than one language? It's not impossible. Of course you can do it, and that's where the other example you gave is about deceiving yourself. The positive one is about encouraging yourself, speaking in faith, speaking as though something that is not true as though it was, rather than speaking something that is true as though it isn't. That's it. I think that's it.
You must have read that somewhere.
I need to write that down. Oh, okay. Hopefully that helps, Trinity, and anybody else who was wondering about that question we didn't really examine fully.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Wow.
Thanks for asking, Trinity. Let's move on, shall we? Thank you, everyone.
Paps. Segment. Subject.
Okay, gentlemen and listeners, let's introduce my segment by saying I wanted to try something a bit different. And this segment I'm going to call Pop Back Chat. Oh. Well, another little idea I had was driving along the other day, and I thought all these segments, I alluded to it in the introduction, 51 different segments and different discussions we've had over lots of different topics. And I wondered, sometimes we feel like the time clock's against us and we have to draw discussions to a close more quickly than we want to. And I just wondered, is there anything out of those last 51 subjects that we've discussed that you might want to pick up on or talk about again and reevaluate, change your mind or add to something that's been said before? And we haven't planned any of this, so we don't know if, apart from I told you two what I wanted to do, so you had time to think about it, but we don't each know what pop back chats we've chosen. So who should go first? I'm not going to go first. I'll let somebody else go first.
Devon.
Me?
It's always the first one to say the other person's name that gets away with it. So. Yep.
Which is a risk since you don't know what this is supposed to be about, but hopefully you've got the gist of it. Yeah. Go on.
Yes.
Go on.
We had a segment in episode 12, which was not long ago at all, and it was my segment. it was about the most underrated film
Yeah.
or underrated films.
Okay.
Since then, I have seen a film which I haven't really seen talked about much at all, and I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it with my wife as well. It's got very bad reviews by the looks of it. It's called In the Tall Grass. It's on Netflix.
In the Tall Grass. Okay.
In the Tall Grass, yeah. It was originally written, or it's based off the novel by Stephen King.
Scary one, is it?
Yes. It's a horror / drama. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It is a little bit cheesy at some points, which is probably why the reviews are so low. But yeah, if I had watched that before we did the segment, I definitely have included it.
You'd have mentioned it, yeah. Okay. Interesting. Very good.
What's it about?
Oh, it's about some cursed grass. Flipping
How
demon
old is
grass,
it?
mate.
Do you know how long ago it was when it was made?
2019.
Okay,
So
recently.
it's October, yeah.
Oh wow!
It was the day before I got married. That's nice.
Oh wow! It's already
So
on
it's released.
Netflix. Yeah.
So do the protagonists end up saving the day with a lawnmower?
No.
Strimmer.
Get a weed whacker or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You've heard of the Chainsaw Massacres, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of questions unanswered, which obviously Ford would not like.
No.
But it's very ominous and hysterical, and it's I don't know. It's what I like in a film as well. But yeah, basically, a couple get lost in some really, really tall grass when they hear some voices coming out of it saying "help me" kind of thing. So they go in, and it turns out the grass is like cursed or something, and you get lost in it, and it like teleports you around and this kind of thing. And it's very interesting, but you can see why you kind of see why it's rated quite low because of just the cheesiness of it. But I think it's actually quite entertaining. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like The Happening. Do you remember that film?
I do remember that film.
Yeah. It's all about the plants. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like pollen or something is disease or something.
Yeah, it makes people kill themselves.
It's a spoiler.
It's a bit dark, really. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard Mark Kermo talking about The Happening the other day, and he said that was a remake from a much earlier film,
Really?
The Happening, and the original was a far better film than the remake.
Really?
If I'm remembering his conversation correctly. And it's not often we talk about other podcasts that we don't want other people to go off and listen to because then they'll. But as we are quite big film fans, that is one of the flagship film reviews podcasts to listen to. So, and I don't always agree with what Mark Kermo says, but I always respect his opinions. And and he mentioned The Happening. Funnily enough, in last week's episode, I'm sure he did. Yeah. Anyway,
well, I can imagine that he's saying that because Mark Wahlberg is trying to play a scientist, which is pretty embarrassing. It's embarrassing for everybody to watch.
Yeah. I haven't seen. I think I've got it. I haven't seen it for a long time. Anyway, okay, very good. So that's an underrated film that you've you could have added to an ever. Yeah. Okay, Ford. What would you want to pick? Pop back and chat about again if you had the chance.
Well, I just thought of the conversation you had about the COVID, the good things that might come out of the COVID.
Oh, wow.
situation.
These are quite recent. Yeah,
especially Wilson.
I thought, the good that can come from lockdown. In the last episode,
Yes. Well, you talked about how people will come out of this and hopefully will learn something to make themselves better.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking people would appreciate being with other people more and
I see
go out
what you're saying. Yeah.
Appreciate the outdoors a lot more. Than they do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Maybe it's when obviously we can't travel at all, like to other countries as well. So maybe there'll be a lot more of that as well. People just like maybe they're taking it for granted or something, and they want to go on an adventure when they haven't been able to. I know I'm feeling that for sure.
I'm wondering actually whether it'll have a positive or a negative effect on international travel because obviously it spread so quickly. The the virus did spread around the world so quickly because of the amount of international travel there is, and people might be a bit more reticent to do that. So I did wonder whether it would be good news for domestic tourism. So people will be staying at home more locally, more often, and travelling less far for their holidays. Or whether, as some people have said, I can't wait till everything's back to normal so I can jump on a plane and rush off to some far off oasis, Yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of people being like, the first thing that's going to happen when lockdown's lifted is like, I'm just going to jump on a plane and I'm going.
I've heard that.
What's the first thing you guys will do when everything starts opening back up?
Go and visit my family.
Heck no. Haircut.
Yeah.
Haircut. Nice.
Get a haircut, man.
Get a haircut.
Mate, it's not well. It's not going well right now. We're not in a good situation. First place, the hairdressers.
Just get some clippers and shave it. Have a haircut like your dad's.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Not tempted, no. Okay.
No, not quite.
One day you might not have a choice. No, I'll not say that really. Oh dear. Very good. Okay, thank you, Ford. Yeah. Shall I share my thoughts then? I wanted to pop back quite recently to talk about something else from episode 12. I was worried when Devon introduced his. I thought you might have gone for the same one as me. And that was Ford's talk in that episode about their favourite aliens. Remember the conversation? And you did a really good job of choosing, I don't know, like a playoff. Playing off one against the other until we got to the final with choice. And I think it was the Vogons that won, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But, and I know you didn't specify this on that segment, that discussion, but I've been looking a bit more deeply at some other aliens from TV shows, not film aliens, but TV aliens. I think, did we include any? We did include some film aliens, didn't we, in that discussion we had before?
Yeah. There
was the one from District 9 and Star Wars, although you could say Star Wars is also TV, isn't it?
Recently, yeah.
Yeah. But I've got a few on my little list. I'm not going to repeat what you did. I'm just going to read a list of some different aliens who I wanted to talk about very, very quickly. I did mention, and he wasn't included, or they weren't included in your list. That was the Cybermen, which are my favourite Doctor Who aliens of all time. Oh, I do like those fake rhinoceros guys. What were they called?
The Chajun.
They were good because they did that little funny chant thing, didn't they? What did they do?
I'm not going to replicate it.
But they were good. They were a very close second favourite. And then here's a couple. The TV series at Babylon 5 has quite a few good aliens in there. Babylon 5 wasn't represented. Neither was Farscape.
Oh, Farscape.
Yeah, Farscape.
Widely disliked.
Yeah. Oh. What else? Oh, what about the V TV series? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Did we watch all of that together, or just
remake?
We watched the remake, didn't we? And the main bad guy in the remake was a woman called Anna, I think.
Yes.
But in the 1980s version, that character, the female evil empress type person, was called Diana. And I think Diana was much scarier than the Anna of the remake anyway. But yeah, so V is another series that was good, that we enjoyed. There was a couple of your conversation about the Goa'uld, is that right? Goa'uld, yeah. Reminded me later of the Jadzia Dax in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, who also has a symbiont in her. Don't you remember? She's the pretty Starfleet officer who, the good-looking lady who is a member of the Trill race. That's the name of her. She had markings down her neck.
Yeah, that's spots, kind of. Like
spots on it. Yeah, like leopard spots on the back of her neck, and she was part of the trill race. But they also have a symbiont implanted. They cojoined internally, and the symbiont's name was Dax, and Dax was a good friend of Cisco, the captain of the space station. And Dax had been in several other hosts before Jadzia, and so
the captain would refer to her as an old man.
Old man, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he'd say old man to this attractive young woman because he still thought of Dax rather than Jadzia. Anyway,
I'm so confused.
Did you catch all that, Devon?
No, my brain hurts now.
You have to go away and look it up. It's
he hates Star Trek.
So it's interesting how Stargate and Star Trek have got a similar kind of idea there. And then there was Tilk from Stargate as well that didn't get mentioned. I know you're limited by what you can mention.
Well, Tilk was a Jafar who's basically a baby Goa'uld.
Okay.
Technically, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Good. No, that's not true.
Yeah. They put the
Take your word for it.
sort of spawn and put them in their soldiers. It gives them powers until the those baby Goa'uld grow and were able to take over a host.
Okay.
So it's like a ticking time bomb inside of one of our main characters because it might grow up at any time and sort of take over.
Okay.
They don't refer to it very often.
No.
Until one episode, they have to take it out.
But Tilk is still an alien, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they all originated from the Earth, and then they're kind of spread across the galaxy.
Oh, I don't know.
Weren't they?
Yeah.
So they're not. There we go. Tilk wasn't an alien. The symbiote inside him was a Goa'uld.
But they do call them Jafar. They are different, but a separate race, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah, mate. Oh, yeah, I've got you.
Open a can of worms there.
You know too much about Stargate. I don't like it.
Yes. It's because you watch it day in and day out, mate. It's ingrained into my brain.
Oh, dear. Anyway, before you get too engrossed in that, there's two more suggestions I've got. First one of those two is Superman.
Yeah.
You don't think of him. You don't think of him as being an alien, do you? Of course.
No.
Yeah. And finally, Doctor Who himself.
A Time Lord.
A Time Lord, yeah. So that was my pop back chat down memory lane of some more aliens to think about. I'm not comparing them to any
Superman,
others.
Superman, a Kryptonian?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Superman, the Doctor, and the V people.
Yeah.
They're all very humanoid. They're like there's nothing really. It's not really interesting. Is it?
Well, the Doctor has two hearts.
Yeah, but you can't see that. He just looks like a normal dude.
But you can't see Tilk's baby Goa'uld.
Indeed, I guess.
Jadzia was very human-like.
Yeah, but she had the markings. That's at least something, you know.
Got some tattoos.
Yeah, and a lot of the characters in Farscape were humanoid as well.
No.
Well, no, the woman who always wore black leather in Farscape, not the blue one. She's obviously not very humanoid. Although she's humanoid, but she's not human-like.
You got that Yoda character who flies around on a hover thing, or
yeah, that's right. I've forgotten his name now. I can tell you it in a second because I saw him on a list.
The guy with like tentacle face.
Yeah, Chiana is the blue girl.
Yeah. I haven't watched it in so long.
Oh, and there was another character in Deep Space Nine called Esri Dax. Pilot had like a funny hat, didn't he? And Esri Dax, sorry.
Funny hat. I think that was his head, wasn't it?
Was that his head? I can't find it. I can't find it now. But anyway, yeah.
What a segment.
Good stuff.
All over the place. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
that was great, man.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that was great.
Whether we'll do that again or not, I don't know. But thank you anyway. Let's move on, shall we?
Okay.
Fords. Segment. Subject.
The year was 476 AD. constant neglect of the economy, management, and army had left Rome in a lowest state it had ever been. The day after my birthday, the barbarian king, something or other, deposed the emperor child and declared himself king of Italy. And so begins the Dark Ages. You like that?
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay. Now, one of the common complaints I hear when it comes to non-Christians or atheists criticizing religion is that if it wasn't for religion or whatever, we wouldn't have had the Dark Ages and technology wouldn't have been held back so much or whatever. Have you guys ever heard that said?
Yeah.
If you have any questions at any point, just come in, whatever. So the Dark Ages takes place from 500 to 1000 AD, right? So it's from the fall of Rome to William the Conqueror invading England for some reason. I don't know. Why do you guys think this period is called the Dark Ages? Why would historians call it that?
Okay. I might jump in first, if that's all right. I would imagine it has something to do with Revelation, not the book. The unenlightened years, or the years before Revelation had come.
Do you mean in a spiritual sense or in a technological sense?
Yeah. Would that be, the dark old age? It's not obviously anything to do with electricity or light in that sense, is it? They would have had fire. What year was it again?
So we're talking from the year 500 AD to 1000-ish. People seem to have different opinions as far as I can tell.
Okay. And I'm just trying to think when Christianity came to these shores.
Well, Christianity has been kicking around obviously since just after Jesus in 30 AD. In the year 300-ish, getting here sort of, it became the religion of Rome. So for 200 years, Rome was Christian-ish, and then it fell, and this is when the Dark Ages starts.
Okay. So my theory is completely wrong then. Yeah.
Well, it depends if you're talking spiritually or technologically or whatever.
I think I was talking about unenlightened spiritual year. The years before spiritual enlightenment. Did the Dark Ages only refer to the British Isles, or was it more broadly sort of around Europe and the world?
Good question. We'll come back to that. Devon,
okay.
Why do you think?
I thought it was just about people going astray away from Christianity.
Okay.
So whether that means lacking revelation, but I always took it as I don't know, other people going through other religions or no religions or something like that. I have never really thought too much about it really.
And neither had I, to be honest. So
okay.
Enlighten us.
So
switch the light on for us.
Yeah, let's turn this Dark Age off right here, right now.
Yeah.
Well, no, not that, I'm afraid. So the reason isn't due to any sort of moral decline or spiritual decline, or even a decline in well-being, or even that per se, anyway. But it is simply that when it comes to historical sources, there is a vacuum. So more specifically, in a variety of sources. Historians can't really draw from many writings specifically from that period. So in actuality, it wasn't.
It's like a dark spot in history.
That bad. Now, you said, didn't you, was it in England or whatever? Actually, we're talking Europe. When it comes to history, obviously, one nation's bad year is another nation's good year, and vice versa. So we're talking now is the period when France, Germany, England, and several others nations become what they will be for the next thousands of years or whatever. 1,000 years, yeah. And we're talking wars that were quite smaller because there's a lack of empires. So we're talking about the fall of Rome, where wars would be quite grand. Now, people think in the Dark Ages maybe there was a lot of wars going on. Maybe there was, but they were diminished in effect, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's good stuff. Anyway, so do you have any questions about any of that?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, that was enlightening, definitely, that you. I didn't realise it was because there's a big black hole in our history books of in what ways would you mean the way society operated, or just there wasn't many key events that people wrote about?
Well, it could be that because obviously, well, so the fall of Rome is a big thing, but there were still other empires going on. Obviously, China did
in the Far East. I was just going to say the Far East.
China's thriving at this point because their export of China, weirdly enough, at this point becomes so popular. That's why we call it China. What is it? Porcelain, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it is porcelain, but we call it China because this is the point where they become so brilliant at it, essentially. We've got people like Thomas Aquinas, who's ripping out these amazing theologies. We've got Hildegard of Bingen, apparently, who's doing lots of amazing art. And it's not a black hole of content in terms of stuff that's happening. The Arabs actually have an amazing time with science at this period. So it's really Europe that has this black hole of
that's
sources.
the region, where it's centered. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what China was called before they invented China, then. Sorry, carry on.
What?
I said, I wonder what China was called before they invented China.
We call porcelain China. Wrong way around.
No, the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Excellent.
I think you're trying to be very serious. I'm sorry, I shouldn't just.
No, please do.
It's very educational. You've been very educational, and we like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do like that. Carry on.
So what do you guys have any other slurs that people throw against Christianity that you can think of right now? Possibly historical, because that's what I've looked into.
Because obviously you talked about the technological advancements. I have heard a lot of religion has caused lots of wars.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You nicked mine.
Okay,
I'm glad I went first.
Good. I'm glad you brought this up because I have something here for that.
Lovely. Hit me with it.
According to the Encyclopedia of Wars, which has catalogued all the known wars, which is, by the way, 1,763. It's quite a lot.
Really? 1,763. Wow.
Yes. The ones that had religious causes, 123.
Wow.
Oh.
So that's less than 7% of all history's wars.
That's incredible.
Have a religious cause. So
that is incredible.
What are other reasons that this
land?
Greed,
argue over land and money, and power,
economy,
I would imagine.
It does not go into that. Well, maybe it does. I haven't read the whole book because it's quite long and expensive. If you try buying that on Amazon, my word, it's hundreds.
I think a lot of people convey ideology with theology. So they'll be like, okay, these people think that this is wrong in their ideology, so it's going war. But that's nothing to do with the religion, nothing to do with theology. It's about their ideology.
Could be political ideologies, couldn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Well,
rather than theological.
Yeah.
Those things are true, but also two nations can have differing theologies, different religions, and go to war.
Get on well.
But that well, I was going to say they can
Carry
still
on.
go to war, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's why they're fighting, just because they have that difference, Anything else that you can think of?
Well, as soon as Devon got the one about wars, what about the Crusades? People talking about the Christian Crusades.
No, that is a bit of a kicker, isn't it? Crusades actually took place in the 1096, so that's outside the Dark Ages, for one thing, because people often say, oh, Dark Ages, Crusades, it's all horrible. But also, the Crusades actually took place in retaliation to Arab invasion of the Byzantine Empire. So at its source, I mean, it did have definitely religious sources, but it was actually in a defensive stance.
Right.
Even though it turned into offensive.
Yeah. So it was the defense that got out of hand.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, there's a lot of shameful acts that went on during the Crusades. I cannot deny that for sure.
Can't defend,
Yeah, but it was in retaliation, to be sure, as well.
Anyway, your point was that the Crusades get blamed for a lot more than they deserve to be blamed for.
Well, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, we should be kinder to Arabs or maybe Muslims or Arabs, whatever," and that because of the Crusades and how we were ridiculously evil or whatever, those actions don't go just one way. Is kind of the point I was trying to make.
Yeah,
there are a lot of
yeah,
you understand. Yeah,
I do. Yeah. No, that's true. And there's a lot you can't defend, but there's a lot it gets blamed for that's not justified. Yeah. Okay. Good. Anything else you want to educate us?
The Black Death. That's not obviously something that Christians get blamed for, but it is something that people seem to think. I get the impression that happened during the Dark Ages. In actuality, it did not. It happened in the year 1347.
Oh wow!
Yes, so that's like 300 odd years after the Dark Ages.
Yeah,
that's just a point of interest that I thought was interesting to share.
Interesting. We are certainly being educated tonight.
Yeah, it's a bit heavy on education. I don't like it.
No, I love it.
Something interesting else that I found. When Rome fell, it is said that the emperor at the time, living in Ravenna, when he was told about it, he cried out, "And yet it was just eating from my hand."
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently, he had a chicken. His favorite chicken was called Rome.
Oh.
And he was confused. He thought that his chicken had died. Apparently, the story goes, when he found out that actually his chicken was fine, he was much relieved.
Oh dear!
It's just it's a story that kind of shows how neglectful the emperor was about Rome. Essentially, it just fell apart because people didn't care. Yeah. Anyway, that's my segment.
Very interesting.
A bit heavy. I don't think I'll be doing that again.
Taking us back down history.
No, it wasn't at all. It was very, very interesting. Yeah, I think it educated us and gave us a lot to digest. Yeah. Thank you.
Devon's segment. Subject.
Talking about raising the bar, let me just bring it back down.
Oh yeah.
Really far down. For my segment, it's very different, and we haven't really talked about this before. And it may be in some controversy among certain circles, but I'm going to ignore that. We're going to hope it'll be fine. I want to talk about what my segment is called, Best Drinks. So for these drinks, I was thinking not non-alcoholic drinks.
Oh, no.
I was thinking alcoholic drinks.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. I wanted to see what you guys thought, because I've got some different kind of like brackets, but not kind of brackets of how to find like the best drink. And I wanted to see what of yours fits into different things. Now, Ford, I know you don't like drinking very much, if at all.
I drink quite a lot, actually. It's just not alcoholic drink.
Yes. I should also say before we get started that I am in no way wanting to peer pressure anybody into having a drink when they feel obliged not to, for whatever reason, religious or not. But I'm just very interested in it, and I like to have a drink every now and then. So I'm going to have a little chat about it. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Don't at me.
A little wine for the stomach, yeah?
Yes.
As Jesus once said.
Exactly.
Or was it Jesus? I don't know. It was
Probably
somebody in the
not,
Bible. It might not have been Jesus. But he wasn't opposed to wine, was he? Otherwise he wouldn't perform the miracle of turning water into wine. Yeah.
Exactly. And the Last Supper wine as well.
Yeah.
To begin with, I would like to ask the both of you, how often do you think, do you drink some kind of alcoholic drink?
For me, well, no, Ford's got a quick answer, I suppose.
Once a year.
Really? Yeah.
Well, I'd say once, maybe like over a weekend.
Eh?
So he drinks lots over one weekend over the whole year. So he has goes on a little bit binge.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lovely. That's Bug Jam, isn't it?
I've been going to a place called Bug Jam, and yes, I do indulge. Yes.
You have a beer then, do you? Is it beer? you
Many
have?
beers, ciders.
Different
Really?
types. Yes, I've tried beers and ciders so far.
I thought you were a good boy. You were.
I am most of the year round. Yes.
Learning stuff on this podcast myself about my own sons. Yeah.
So it's not intentional.
So you go to the Bug Jam with some friends from work, is it?
A friend from work, yes, and he peer pressures me.
Oh,
That's great.
No, I'm good. Don't worry.
So Ford, I may need you to have some imagination for this
Okay.
segment. Right? And what about you, Doug?
okay. What's my favourite drink?
How often do you?
Oh,
drink?
how often? It depends on the time of year. In warmer weather, I might have a beer of a daytime when I get home from work, because it's very refreshing. In the winter time, not so much.
Yes.
So, and then I might have a short drink, either a whiskey or brandy or a glass of wine. I know that's not a short drink, but something of that nature. I might have a glass of wine with a meal or a spirit drink at the end of an evening.
Nightcap.
Yeah, maybe twice a week, perhaps.
I was going to say the same as well.
Yeah.
Twice a week. Yeah.
Yeah. Before you move on, I would also say that I always try and have a day off alcohol every third day. So even in the hot weather,
You don't drink
on
food,
the
isn't it?
third day, I will have I don't know, lemonade and orange juice or something like that instead of a beer.
Why is that?
Yeah, because I like to give my system a chance to detox. If I have one or two beers, then on the third day I'll just have nothing alcoholic at all.
So not every other day or anything like that.
It's the third day is when you rise.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's when I wake up from having too much of it. No. Yeah, that's just a thing of mine that I heard it's good for your body not to drink alcohol every day. So yeah,
But yeah,
a little bit of alcohol's fine.
Yes.
But if you give your body a break from it, then it's also good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All good things in moderation.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. To kickstart the convo, if at all, I've got a few different categories that we shall come into conclusions with.
Okay.
The first one, to help us decide of maybe the best drink, is what would you say is the most refreshing alcoholic drink?
Alcoholic drink. I definitely think a lager more than any other type of beer. Yeah, a pint of lager is the most refreshing on a hot day.
Do you have it cooled down?
Yeah, chilled lager. Yeah, you can only drink lager cold, can't you? You can drink other types of beer at room temperature. But,
you can drink lager at room temperature.
Yeah, but it's not very nice. Yeah.
I would assume maybe a fruity drink, like a cider or something. A cold cider.
I'm not a cider drinker, to be honest. Yeah, so it might be, but not for me. Yeah,
I'm a both, and for me, for refreshing, I'd say a cider.
Okay.
More in particular, maybe like a Strongbow dark fruits or a Old Mood cider or something like that. It's very nice, like a dark fruity kind of thing, rather than an apple cider. Apple cider's not very nice, I think.
Okay.
What's the vodka for?
Oh, for getting drunk very quickly.
Oh, okay.
So unless Ford has a very, I don't know, a strong opinion.
Well, I have tried both, and I did prefer the cider, so I don't know if you count that, but yeah.
I might enjoy dark fruit cider more than an apple cider, definitely. So if you want to go with cider, then yeah, have cider.
Oh, wow, okay.
If that's your choice and Ford's, then
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not my choice, but I can understand why it would be.
Let me whack in a lager / dark cider.
fruit cider here.
Yeah. Excellent. Next category is, what would you say is most tasty? So this can be any type of alcoholic drink, no matter how much alcoholic percentage it has in it, but what is best for your palate?
For flavour, I think either there's two choices for me. One would be a pint of Guinness.
Really?
I like Guinness. Next favourite out of pint glass drinks. Or a red wine. Yeah. Flavoursome.
I would have thought of wine. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow. Okay. That seems very...
What would be yours?
I was going to say red wine, to be honest. That's what came into my mind.
Okay, then.
I also had other two things that was in my mind, but I might save them for the next category as well.
Okay, yeah.
I would have thought, when it comes to wine, red looks most appealing. I don't know what rosé and white have got going on. Nothing really.
Yeah.
Not for me, anyway.
Apparently they're better with different foods.
Yeah, different whatever you're eating, yeah.
Yeah, but for most things, like for Italian or red meats, things like that, you want some red wine. So I think it's better anyway in any kind of occasion.
Yeah.
But obviously that's just my personal preference. What would you say the next category is most drinkable? As in, you could drink a good amount of it, even if you're not really in the mood, or if it's just easy to drink.
A Jaeger bomb. No, I'm talking nonsense. I don't even know what that is.
I think for me that would be some kind of an ale of some sort, because it's not as gassy.
Yeah.
It's still flavoursome, and I could drink a lot more of that than I could either Guinness or lager. Yeah, so some kind of nothing too hoppy, just something quite
smooth.
Yeah, it's nice, smooth brown ale of some description. Yeah.
Yes.
What's the sort of alcohol that you throw into a Coke or whatever?
Whiskey.
Okay, yeah, I can imagine that
or
being
brandy and Coke. Yeah.
Yeah. So the conversation I've had with you, Ford, we talked about cocktails, and you said the only cocktail I'd really like is one that's kind of like fruity. Yeah, and then you can taste more fruit than you can alcohol, so what's even the point for me to have it? So I'd guess with that, it's quite drinkable then, if you're not really tasting the alcohol so much, because some cocktails, obviously the alcohol's more prominent than others, but some, they taste just like fruit drinks. And they're very drinkable, I'd say.
Was that the conversation when I went on to say that I'd actually have a chocolate milk if I could?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So what would you say for Dad's Dead Ale?
I mean, yeah, I'd have to go with him, wouldn't I, really?
I mean, if you want.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Got more experience.
Now, I think this has gone in a certain direction, which makes this one a little bit predictable. But the next category is most worth the money. So obviously a red wine is a lot more expensive than like a lager. But what is most worth the money for you?
Now, I would think that a whiskey or a rum, I don't know, how much do you drink of a rum? Something where you don't drink a lot of it, but you really feel the hit, you know what I'm saying?
But is that even enjoyable to you? Like, would you actually ever drink it at all?
I wouldn't drink any.
I can tell you what, I think I've got the answer to this. I've just had the last tot out of the bottle I bought for Christmas, and that was a nice bottle of Harvey's Bristol Cream Sherry.
Oh, wow.
Sherry.
And I don't think it's very expensive. Can't remember now how much bottle that's worth. But it's lasted me since Christmas.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty good value for money. Yeah.
Wow.
I had the last glass last night.
Did you drink it with lemonade or
no, on its own?
Is it just on its own? It says cream, you said?
Yeah. Harvey's Bristol Cream Sherry. Yeah.
Wow. Gosh.
Have you heard of it?
No.
You don't know sherry? Yeah.
I know sherry, yeah, for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's from Tesco's it'd be £12.50.
Oh wow,
but it's lasted me 4 months, so it's not bad, is it?
it's definitely not bad, especially if you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So obviously
Yeah,
we can all get something that we can buy and it would last ages, but as we not enjoy it. So it's probably what's most worth the money. Like
I like whiskey, but I don't like it that often.
Yeah.
And I'd mix it with lemonade, preferably, which is a
lemonade.
I know that's a dreadful thing to admit to, and I like brandy as well. But I think I could drink brandy neat more than whiskey neat.
Wow. I'm drinking whiskey neat right now.
Oh, yeah.
As we speak,
Is that in preparation for the segment?
So as Ford has said, he kind of hates all kind of drink that's alcoholic. Shall I put down sherry?
Yeah, okay. Best value, did you say?
Yeah, most worth the money. Yeah, best value.
Yeah, okay.
To be fair to alcohol, I have very little experience, so I've never tried pina colada or anything like that. So I might like drink alcohol, but I've just not found it yet.
No,
yes.
I'm not. I've not had any experience of cocktails, so I wouldn't know where to start with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, jumping back because I kind of missed out what I was going to say for the most drinkable one. On my honeymoon, I had lots and lots of martini and lemonade.
Oh yeah.
By the pool.
It wasn't that
bad.
Yeah.
It's very what?
People drink when they get nervous.
It's just on the honeymoon. Yeah.
No, this is just like sitting by the pool. It was all inclusive, so let's go up to the bar that's next to the pool and go martini and lemonade, and she just by the end of it she just knows exactly what I wanted every single time.
Wow.
It was very, very tasty, very refreshing.
I know what.
So I'd say that's most drinkable.
Was it shaken or stirred?
Yeah, James Bond drink. Yeah.
Probably not with lemonade though.
Yeah.
But it was very, very nice. I could just drink that the whole day. To be honest, it was.
I'll have to get a bottle in for next time you come to visit. Then, will I?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool.
Okay.
So I'll probably put that in my most drinkable, but it's not that
very good.
And for my last category, which kind of sums it all up, because obviously everything we talked about is for different times, for being refreshing, for having a very tasty palate, or just to drink with people or whatever. What would you have right now if you had to, Ford?
I'd probably say whiskey, to be honest, because I've never tried it.
Oh, you're feeling adventurous. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, I thought you'd try it, like, because you don't like to drink anything. Like, I'll just get something that I've had before. That's quite easy.
Oh, no, because again, I've never found anything that I really like. So
I think you should try Pimm's. Pimm's is nice and easy. I think it'll be okay with you.
Yeah.
But maybe I need to get you some or something. Okay, thank you. Whiskey. That's good. Yeah. What about you, Dad?
I think I could just about sink a pint of real ale at the moment. Yeah. That will go down very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I guess if I have a choice, obviously I've chosen right now for some whiskey, but that's probably because I do not have any cider.
Wow.
If I had it, I'd probably drink it now because it is very, very refreshing. It's very nice. Obviously, it's not a hot day today, but I'm very thirsty, and it's very good for you. Good for your lips.
Okay.
Not good for your waistline.
Your lips will love you for the rest of your life. Yeah.
It will. Yeah, definitely. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay. What has that helped you with? What you can do with that information?
Well, now I know that I need to get forward some Pimm's.
Right, yeah.
And I know what to grab you from the fridge on particular times of day.
Oh, yeah.
So
interesting. A little sort of anything chat on alcohol. Yeah.
Exactly. I like to bring in a bit of anything chat.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything spiritual to that chat?
No.
Oh.
Spiritual, maybe vodka. That's all.
Oh, dear.
Bad joke. There we go. Finished.
Very good. Well done, guys. Thank you.
And now it's time for Random Chatting.
Okay. So shall we move on to our random chats? Yes. And this time we're looking in our homework section about some literature that Ford encouraged us to read. Do you want to talk a bit about it, Ford, to kick us off?
What the story is?
Shall we?
Yeah, okay. So this is a short story by Georgette Hare. I'm told apparently it's higher.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Not hair. Apparently, that's people say it wrong. So the story essentially is there's these people in a carriage. They're going along in a blizzard. It gets knocked over by a snowdrift.
Run off the road. Yeah.
The road. One of the guys rushes off because he has to get to Bath. We're following this woman. She gets rescued by a man, and she has to rush off to Bath as well. And we find out why, essentially.
Is this just a segment of a larger story, or is this the book, if you bought the book?
This is a self-contained story. Surrounded by other self-contained stories.
Right. I quite liked it, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. I found some of the metaphysical imagery.
Hitchhiker's Quick.
Actually, I quite liked it, yeah. No, I did like it, actually, because, it was a little bit predictable. You could see what was going to happen by about a third of the way in.
Yes.
And it was a bit unbelievable what actually happens in the end. But the language used was beautifully written, even though I read it in the garden out loud to my wife, and I'm not very good at reading out loud, if truth be known. I can read to myself much more clearer than I can out loud, and some of the words are quite strange. The language, it's very literally, it reminds you, it's quite Shakespearean. Would I say that? Could I say that? I don't know.
I mean, Shakespeare just made up words, so probably shouldn't say
okay. But there were some words in it that I didn't know.
Yep.
Yes. Is that unusual?
I put my hand up, actually got my hand in the air now, saying I didn't know what a curricle was. Did you know what a curricle was?
I didn't know.
I'm guessing it's some kind of horse-drawn vehicle, which is like an open-top carriage.
Yeah, because he rides in a curricle, doesn't he?
Yeah. And there were loads of others, and I meant what I should have done, and I know you advised me to do this, I should have printed it off, and then I could have highlighted or underlined things that I wanted to talk about afterwards, because when you read it on your iPad, you can't do that very easily.
Not without ruining your screen, anyway.
No, that's right. Yeah. So I was enjoyed the experience of reading it because it challenged me to think, and sometimes I had to read a line more than once to get the understanding of it. Yeah. It was a love story, wasn't it? A love story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a short story, so everything had to happen at like 100 miles an hour. But I found it quite interesting that even though it was a short story, they do like 5 different scenes. Typically, when you're doing a short story, you stick to like one scene. Like with the last one we did, a guy goes to a bridge and then he leaves. That was it.
Yeah.
In this one, there's quite a lot that happens.
Yeah, Christine, although there is a lot that happens, Christine said that she was listening to me read it to her, and she said, they say a lot to describe very little. There's lots of different scenes. Do you know what I mean? It's very wordy. I think that's what she meant by that.
Yeah.
You know, I probably took half an hour or so to read it, and we stopped halfway through for something reason. And she said, well, you've been reading now for quite some time, and it's not a lot's happened yet, but it kind of contradicts what you said. But I know what you mean about there being lots of different scenes in it. Yeah,
I think I know what you mean by describes a lot, but not actually really saying much. Like there's a lot of description about Joseph, but mostly just the same thing over and over again about him being like odious or disgusting or a wretch. And it's like, okay, but what's he like? I mean, He's telling me the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
I get the point that he's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When it comes to describing things, I know Georgette Heyer did a lot of research into the time that she was writing. She was pretty thorough. Everyone looks back to her as like the one. So it's a bit. She's proving that, I guess, in that sense when it comes to describing things.
Yes. Very descriptive. Yeah.
Would you consider it an 18?
What? No.
No.
Really? Because there was a few very rude words.
Was that?
There was one that I saw.
I missed
didn't really
that.
make sense. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, it did, but there's this. I found it here, and this is one line. I'll read it out. It's not. I don't think it's meant to be bad to put it. He stopped short, staring at her.
Yeah.
So this is where I find you. He ejaculated.
Yeah, but that's not. That's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the use of that word that you're thinking.
It's not. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
at all.
That's not what I meant. No, I meant it's a few swear words. There's a few swear words, is what I'm saying.
Was there?
Did you not notice?
No.
Oh, fair enough. Maybe you didn't consider them swear words. Maybe I'm being oversensitive.
That example you just gave, though, Devon, is exactly what I mean. It's the use of a word that we're used to in familiar context these days, but used in the way it was meant. That was mean to give off, what
To
in what?
release.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and it's a correct usage in both terms, but we just don't come. You see how the English language has changed so much.
Yeah.
And it's confusing.
Yeah. It is confusing in modern day, and I wondered if I were to read Shakespeare, whether I would be able to because of its. And I love listening to Shakespearean language. One of my favourite lines from Romeo and Juliet is "These times of woe afford no time for woo," and that sort of thing, And in fact, after I have watched a film which uses some Shakespearean language like that, or after I'd read this short story, I find myself talking a bit like that for the next half hour or so.
Yeah.
I can't.
Your vocabulary,
Yeah, I can't keep it up for any longer than that. But I do find myself emulating it a bit. It's like this line I've written in my notes to quote you. Towards the end, the main character, Sir Julian Arden, says, "Let us go beard with your grandfather. I must ask his permission to pay my addresses to you." Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
What does "to go beard" mean?
You're reading it right.
Yeah, I definitely read it right. Let us go beard with your grandfather. I think, presuming that he got a beard and it meant have a conflab, a chat, make his beard move up and down a bit.
Let us go in and beard your grandfather.
Yeah, you found it.
Yeah.
So it's typo.
I think so.
Huh?
Well,
so we can't over scrutinise it. What's everybody think about it? I enjoyed it for it being so different to what I would have otherwise read. It's a bit like when I listen to music I don't normally listen to. It's something different. So
yeah. I think it was good.
Did you guys do accents?
No.
What are you reading?
Yeah, like the farmer and the woman and
No.
Oh, come on.
Well, I was reading it out loud. Obviously, I had to. It's harder to read out loud to somebody because they can't see when you're doing the different voices. So I had to add a little bit of voicage to the female and the male, but I couldn't voicage. Is that the right phrase? Accent, yeah. Stylization to each of the voices. Yeah, because when you're reading to somebody, it's much more difficult, isn't it? For them to know who's saying what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
So I must hands up. I did do a bit of that. Yeah. Why did you?
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Got to lean into it.
Yeah, very good.
So, how many grandmother's pearls out of 10 would you give?
Grandmother's pearls. Oh, I always go for middle of the road, don't I? But maybe a 6, I think, for me.
A 6?
Really, is that low? I was going to give it a 7.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
I think it kind of captured me and kind of immersed me in that world. Even though I had to think about what I was reading, it was very like cold, and I could feel it being cold. And I liked that.
That was good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't reflect how well it was written, my 6. It just reflects how much I... All right, then, I'm contradicting myself. I said I really liked it, and then I only give it a 6.
Well, I consider 5 as sort of meh.
Do you?
So you're saying just
what's everything below 5, then?
Well, that's getting worse and worse, and then 1 is like terrible. It could not be worse.
Right, the game we played last episode, yeah. Shall I revise then?
It's up to you.
6.5.
Okay.
Fair enough. I give it a 9. When it comes to short stories, I think this one nailed it pretty much.
Wow.
It can, yeah.
I feel bad now. I'm not appreciating it. Yeah.
Well, I only gave it a 7. So
yeah. Compared to our last one, I know it's not our normal sort of. This isn't our area, but I enjoyed it.
I think I enjoyed Trollbridge more.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I just felt there's more story to this, a bit more fleshing out of characters and whatever.
Trollbridge was more of a comedy, wasn't it? Than this.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
It's more of a romance drama type thing.
Trollbridge was more believable.
You're not a fan of Knight's Rescue stories?
What, people falling in love and getting married all within one day?
Yeah.
Love at first sight.
Steady on.
Yeah. Okay, I think we need to draw that to a close.
Yeah, we do, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, my wife's just poked her head round the door. What did you think to the story?
I thought it was really good.
You enjoyed it? Come and tell.
Oh.
Come and stand here so they can hear you.
Are you recording?
Yeah. You might be on the episode if you tell us what you thought about it. I told them that I read it to you in the garden.
I thought it was very good.
Bit nearer.
Yeah, it was quite. Not a lot happened in a whole story, but the way it was described was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was just lovely. It's like the author basically wrote a couple of sentences which I could have said in 3 or 4 words.
Yeah.
So the description of everything, it was just beautiful. The way I just loved it.
Oh, good.
Really loved it. Yeah.
What would she give it out of 10?
8.
8. There you go.
Okay.
Wow. So I'm
very good.
the odd one out then. Yeah.
Yep.
I gave it a bit less, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. A 4th voice.
Excellent.
It's a rare treat. Okay.
Excellent.
Right.
Onwards
Excellent.
upwards.
Thank you very much, Christine. Okay, guys. I think we're done with that then, aren't we? Let's move on to the end of the show.
It's homework time and farewell.
As it's our 15th episode next time round, regular listeners will remember that we should hopefully be having a special guest again. Can't say any more than that at this moment, yet to be confirmed, but we'll also be having a look at some homework again in time for the next one. And we've had a recommendation. Who'd like to read the recommendation to us?
I can do it today.
Yeah, go on, Devon.
Yeah. So we talked about, on a previous episode, I can't remember what it was about. It was about different films, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Movie tropes.
Movie tropes, that's the one.
Well, story
and we had an email in recommending a Butterfly on the Wheel. And we've also just come to the knowledge that Butterfly on the Wheel is also on Amazon Prime Video.
Which is good news.
Yeah, it's good news. It sort of makes it a lot more available.
We can all watch it, yeah.
We can all watch it, and if you've got Amazon Prime at home, you can watch that too.
Yeah.
So that's what
we're
doing.
What I suggest we do is we get that film watched and thought about in time for our next recording. Indeed. If, depending on the nature of how that recording goes, we can may be able to do that homework and review Butterfly on a Wheel in episode 15. If we don't have time because of having a special guest, then we can do that in episode 16. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Finally, then, summing up everything else, we can find us on all the major podcast platforms and on YouTube. Just search for Theory of Anything, and you'll find us there to subscribe to. What do you say on YouTube? You have to hit
subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification bell.
That's the one.
All that great things.
Thank you very much. You can also follow some conversation between us on Twitter at Theory of Anything with a TING at the end. And also email us if you've got any comment at the email address of theoryofanything@hotmail.com.
Sweet.
Marvellous. Thank you so much, guys. I think that's everything.
Brilliant.
So look forward to seeing you around the microphone again next time.
Bye.